Exodus 21, verse 1. These are the right rulings which you are to set before them. When you buy a Hebrew servant, he serves 6 years, and in the 7th he goes out free, for naught. If he comes in by himself, he goes out by himself. If he comes in married, then his wife shall go out with him. If his master has given him a wife, and she has borne him sons or daughters, the wife and her children are her master's, and he goes out by himself. And if the servant truly says, I love my master, my wife, and my children, let me not go out free, then his master shall bring him before Elohim, and shall bring him to the door, or to the doorposts, and his master shall pierce his ear with an awl, and he shall serve him forever. And when a man sells his daughter to be a female servant, she does not go out as the male servants do. If she is displeasing in the eyes of her master, who has engaged her to himself, then he shall let her be ransomed. He shall have no authority to sell her to a foreign people, because of him deceiving her. And if he has engaged her to his son, he is to do to her as is the right of daughters. If he takes another wife, her food, her covering, and her marriage rights are not to be dismissed. And if he does not do these 3 for her, then she shall go out for naught, without silver. He who strikes a man so that he dies shall certainly be put to death. But if he did not lie in wait, but Elohim delivered him into his hand, then I shall appoint for you a place where he is to flee. But when a man acts presumptuously against his neighbor, to kill him by treachery, you are to take him even from my slaughter place to die. And he who strikes his father or his mother shall certainly be put to death. And he who kidnaps a man and sells him, or if he is found in his hand, shall certainly be put to death. And he who curses his father or his mother shall certainly be put to death. And when men strive together, and one strikes the other with a stone or with his fist, and he does not die, but is confined to his bed, if he rises again and walks about outside with his staff, then he who struck him shall be innocent. He only pays for lost time, and sees to it that he is completely healed. And when a man strikes his male or female servant with a rod, so that he dies under his hand, he shall certainly be punished. But if he remains alive a day or 2, he is not punished, for he is his property. And when men strive, and they shall smite a pregnant woman, and her children come out, yet there is no injury, he shall certainly be punished accordingly as the woman's husband lays upon him, and he shall give through the judges. But if there is injury, then you shall give life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burn for burn, wound for wound, lash for lash. And when a man strikes the eye of his male or female servant and destroys it, he is to let him go free for the sake of his eye. And if he knocks out the tooth of his male or female servant, he is to let him go free for the sake of his tooth. And when an ox gores a man or a woman to death, then the ox shall certainly be stoned, and its flesh is not eaten, and the owner of the ox is innocent. However, if the ox was previously in the habit of goring, and its owner has been warned, and he has not kept it confined, so that it has killed a man or a woman, the ox is stoned, and its owner also is put to death. If a sin covering is laid upon him, then he shall give the ransom of his life, whatever is laid on him. Whether it has gored a son or gored a daughter, according to the right ruling, it is done to him. If the ox gores a male or female servant, he is to give to their master 30 shekels of silver, and the ox is stoned. And when a man opens a pit, or if a man digs a pit and does not cover it, and an ox or a donkey falls in it, the owner of the pit is to repay. He is to give silver to the owner, and the dead beast is his. And when the ox of a man smites the ox of his neighbor, and it dies, then they shall sell the live ox, and divide the silver from it, and also divide the dead ox. Or, if it was known that the ox was previously in the habit of goring, and the owner has not kept it confined, he shall certainly repay ox for ox, while the dead beast is his. When a man steals an ox or a sheep, and shall slaughter it or sell it, he repays 5 cattle for an ox, and 4 sheep for a sheep. If the thief is found breaking in, and he is struck so that he dies, there is no guilt for his bloodshed. If the sun has risen on him, there is guilt for bloodshed. He shall certainly repay. If he has not the means, then he shall be sold for his theft. If the theft is indeed found alive in his hand, whether it is an ox or a donkey or sheep, he repays double. When a man lets a field or vineyard be grazed bare, and lets loose his livestock, and it feeds in another man's field, he repays from the best of his own field, and the best of his own vineyard. When fire breaks out and spreads to thorn bushes, so that stacked grain or standing grain, or the field is consumed, he who kindled the fire shall certainly repay. When a man gives silver or goods to his neighbor to guard, and it is stolen out of the man's house, if the thief is found, he repays double. If the thief is not found, then the master of the house shall be brought before Elohim to see whether he has put his hand into his neighbor's goods. For every matter of transgression, for ox, for donkey, for sheep, for garment, or for whatever is lost which another claims to be his, let the matter of them both come before Elohim, and whomever Elohim declares wrong repays double to his neighbor. When a man gives to his neighbor a donkey, or ox, or sheep, or any beast to watch over, and it dies, or is injured, or is driven away while no one is looking, let an oath of Adonai be between them both, that he has not put his hand into his neighbor's goods, and the owner of it shall accept that, and he does not repay. But if it is indeed stolen from him, he repays to its owner. If it is torn to pieces, then let him bring it for evidence. He does not repay what was torn. And when a man borrows from his neighbor, and it is injured or dies while the owner of it is not present, he shall certainly repay. But if its owner was with it, he does not repay. If it was hired, he is entitled to the hire. And when a man entices a maiden who is not engaged, and lies with her, he shall certainly pay the bride price for her to be his wife. If the father absolutely refuses to give her to him, he pays according to the bride price of maidens. Do not allow a practitioner of witchcraft to live. Anyone lying with a beast shall certainly be put to death. He who slaughters to an Elohim, except to Adonai only, is put under the ban. Do not tread down a sojourner, or oppress him, for you were sojourners in the land of Mitzrayim. Do not afflict any widow or fatherless child. If you do afflict them at all, if they cry out to me at all, I shall certainly hear their cry, and my wrath shall burn, and I shall kill you with the sword. Your wives shall be widows, and your children fatherless. If you lend silver to any of my people, the poor among you, you are not to be like one that lends on interest to him. Do not lay interest on him. If you take your neighbor's garment as a pledge at all, you are to return it to him before the sun goes down, for that is his only covering. It is his garment for his skin. What does he sleep in? And it shall be that when he cries to me, I shall hear, for I show favor. Do not revile an Elohim, nor curse a ruler of your people. Do not delay giving your harvest and your vintage. Give me the firstborn of your sons. Likewise, you are to do with your oxen, with your sheep. It is to be with its mother 7 days. On the 8th day you give it to me, and you are set apart men to me. And you do not eat any meat which is torn to pieces in the field. You throw it to the dogs. Do not bring a false report. Do not put your hand with the wrong to be a malicious witness. Do not follow a crowd to do evil, nor bear witness in a strife, so as to turn aside after many, to turn aside what is right. And do not favor a poor man in his strife. When you meet your enemy's ox, or his donkey going astray, you shall certainly return it to him. When you see the donkey of him who hates you lying under its burden, you shall refrain from leaving it to him. You shall certainly help him. Do not turn aside the right ruling of your poor in his strife. Keep yourself far from a false matter, and do not kill the innocent and the righteous, for I do not declare the wrong right. And do not take a bribe, for a bribe blinds the seeing one and twists the words of the righteous. And do not oppress a sojourner, as you yourselves know the heart of a sojourner, because you were sojourners in the land of Mitzrayim. And for 6 years you are to sow your land, and shall gather its increase. But the 7th year you are to let it rest, and shall leave it, and the poor of your people shall eat, and what they leave the beasts of the field eat. Do the same with your vineyard and your oliveyard. 6 days you are to do your work, and on the 7th day you rest, in order that your ox and your donkey might rest, and the son of your female servant and the sojourner be refreshed. And in all that I have said to you, take heed, and make no mention of the name of other mighty ones. Let it not be heard from your mouth. 3 times in a year you are to celebrate a festival to me. Guard the festival of Matzah. 7 days you eat unleavened bread, as I commanded you, at the time appointed in the new moon of Aviv. For in it you came out of Mitzrayim, and do not appear before me empty-handed. And the festival of the harvest, the first fruits of your labors which you have sown in the field, and the festival of the ingathering, at the outgoing of the year, when you have gathered in the fruit of your labors from the field. 3 times in a year all your males are to appear before the Master Adonai. Do not slaughter the blood of my slaughtering with leavened bread, and the fat of my festival shall not remain until morning. Bring the first of the first fruits of your land into the house of Adonai, your Elohim. Do not cook a young goat in its mother's milk. See, I am sending a messenger before you to guard you in the way and to bring you into the place which I have prepared. Be on guard before him and obey his voice. Do not rebel against him, for he is not going to pardon your transgressions. For my name is in him. But if you diligently obey his voice, and shall do all that I speak, then I shall be an enemy to your enemies, and a distresser to those who distress you. For my messenger shall go before you, and shall bring you in to the Amorites, and the Hittites, and the Perizzites, and the Canaanites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, and I shall cut them off. Do not bow down to their mighty ones, nor serve them, nor do according to their works, but without fail overthrow them, and without fail break down their pillars. And you shall serve Adonai your Elohim, and he shall bless your bread and your water, and I shall remove sickness from your midst. None shall miscarry or be barren in your land. I shall fill the number of your days. I shall send my fear before you, and cause confusion among all the people to whom you come, and make all your enemies turn their backs to you. And I shall send hornets before you, which shall drive out the Hivites, the Canaanite, and the Hittite from before you. I shall not drive them out before you in 1 year, lest the land become a waste, and the beasts of the field become too numerous for you. Little by little I shall drive them out from before you, until you have increased, and you inherit the land. And I shall set your border from the sea of reeds to the sea of the Philistines, and from the wilderness to the river. For I shall give the inhabitants of the land into your hand, and you shall drive them out before you. Do not make a covenant with them, nor with their mighty ones. Let them not dwell in your land, lest they make you sin against me, when you serve their mighty ones, when it becomes a snare to you. And to Moshe he said, Come up to Adonai, you and Aaron, Nadav and Avinu, and 70 of the elders of Israel, and you shall bow yourselves from a distance. But Moshe shall draw near to Adonai by himself, and let them not draw near, nor let the people go up with him. And Moshe came and related to the people all the words of Adonai, and all the right rulings. And all the people answered with one voice and said, All the words which Adonai has spoken, we shall do. And Moshe wrote down all the words of Adonai, and rose up early in the morning, and built a slaughter place at the foot of the mountain, and 12 standing columns for the 12 tribes of Israel. And he sent young men of the children of Israel, and they offered ascending offerings, and slaughtered slaughterings of peace offerings to Adonai of bulls. And Moshe took half the blood, and put it in basins, and half the blood he sprinkled on the slaughter place. And he took the book of the covenant, and read in the hearing of the people. And they said, All that Adonai has spoken, we shall do and obey. And Moshe took the blood, and sprinkled it on the people, and said, See, the blood of the covenant which Adonai has made with you concerning all these words. And Moshe went up, also Aaron, Nadav, and Avinu, and 70 of the elders of Israel. And they saw the Elohim of Israel, and under his feet, like a paved work of sapphire stone, and like the heavens from brightness. Yet he did not stretch out his hand against the chiefs of the children of Israel. And they saw Elohim, and they ate and drank. And Adonai said to Moshe, Come up to me on the mountain, and there, while I give you tablets of stone, and the Torah, and the command which I have written, to teach them. And Moshe arose with his assistant Yehoshua, and Moshe went up to the mountain of Elohim. And he said to the elders, Wait here for us until we come back to you. And see, Aaron and Hur are with you. Whoever has matters, let him go to them. And Moshe went up into the mountain, and a cloud covered the mountain. And the esteem of Adonai dwelt on Mount Sinai. And the cloud covered it for 6 days. And on the 7th day he called to Moshe out of the mists of the cloud. And the appearance of the esteem of Adonai was like a consuming fire on the top of the mountain, before the eyes of the children of Israel. And Moshe went into the midst of the cloud, and went up into the mountain. And it came to be that Moshe was on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights. Jeremiah 33 verse 25. Thus said Adonai, If my covenant is not with day and night, and if I have not appointed the laws of the heavens and earth, then I would also reject the descendants of Yaakov and David my servant, so that I should not take of his descendants to be rulers over the descendants of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. For I shall turn back their captivity, and have compassion on them. Jeremiah 34 verse 8. The word which came to Jeremiah from Adonai, after sovereign Tzidkiyahu had made a covenant with all the people who were at Jerusalem to proclaim release to them, that everyone was to set free his male and female slave, the Hebrew man and the Hebrew woman. No one was to keep a Yehudi, his brother, enslaved. And when all the heads and all the people who had come into the covenant heard that each one was to set free his male and female slaves, and not keep them enslaved any longer, they obeyed and released them. But afterward they changed their minds and made the male and female slaves return, whom they had set free, and brought them into subjection as male and female slaves. Therefore the word of Adonai came to Jeremiah from Adonai, saying, Thus said Adonai, the Elohim of Israel, I myself made a covenant with your fathers in the day that I brought them out of the land of Mitzrayim, out of the house of bondage, saying, At the end of 7 years each one should set free his Hebrew brother, who has been sold to him, and when he has served you 6 years, you shall let him go free from you. But your fathers did not obey me, nor incline their ear, and you have recently turned and did what was right in my eyes, each man proclaiming release to his neighbor. And you made a covenant before me in the house which I called by my name. But you turned back and profaned my name, and each one of you took back his male and female slaves, whom he had set free, at their pleasure, and brought them into subjection, to be your male and female slaves. Therefore, thus said Adonai, you have not obeyed me in proclaiming release, each one to his brother, and each one to his neighbor. See, I am proclaiming release to you, declares Adonai, to the sword, to the pestilence, and to the scarcity of food. And I shall make you a horror to all reigns of the earth. And I shall give the men who are transgressing my covenant, who have not established the words of the covenant which they made before me, when they cut the calf in two and passed between the parts of it, the heads of Yehudah and the heads of Jerusalem, the Enochs and the priests, and all the people of the land who passed between the parts of the calf. And I shall give them into the hand of their enemies, and into the hand of those who seek their life, and their corpses shall be for food to the birds of the heavens and the beasts of the earth. And I shall give Tzidkiyahu, sovereign of Yehudah, and his heads into the hand of their enemies, and into the hands of those who seek their life, and into the hand of the sovereign of Babel, army that was withdrawn from you. See, I am commanding, declares Adonai, and shall bring them back to this city, and they shall fight against it, and take it, and burn it with fire. And I shall make the cities of Yehudah a ruin without inhabitant. Matthew 5, verse 38. You heard that it was said, an eye for an eye, and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, do not resist the wicked, but whoever slaps you on your right cheek, turn the other to him also. And he who wishes to sue you and take away your inner garment, let him have your outer garment as well. And whoever compels you to go 1 mile, go with him 2. Give to him who asks of you, and from him who wishes to borrow from you, do not turn away. Matthew 17, verse 1. And after 6 days, Yeshua took Kepha and Yaakov and Yochanan his brother, and brought them up on a high mountain by themselves. And he was transformed before them, and his face shone like the sun, and his garments became as white as the light. And see, Moshe and Eliyahu appeared to them, talking with him. And Kepha answering, said to Yeshua, Master, it is good for us to be here. If you wish, let us make here 3 booths, one for you, one for Moshe, and one for Eliyahu. While he was still speaking, see, a bright cloud overshadowed them, and see, a voice came out of the cloud, saying, This is my Son, the Beloved, in whom I did delight. Hear him. And when the taught ones heard, they fell on their faces and were much afraid. But Yeshua came near and touched them, and said, Rise, and do not be afraid. And having lifted up their eyes, they saw no one but Yeshua only. And as they were coming down from the mountain, Yeshua commanded them, saying, Do not mention the vision to anyone until the Son of Adam is raised from the dead. And his taught ones asked him, saying, Why then do the scribes say that Eliyahu has to come first? And Yeshua answering said to them, Eliyahu is indeed coming first, and shall restore all. But I say to you that Eliyahu has already come, and they did not recognize him, but did to him whatever they wished. In this way the Son of Adam is also about to suffer by them. Then the taught ones understood that he had spoken to them about Yochanan the Immerser. And when they came to the crowd, a man came up to him, kneeling down to him and saying, Master, have compassion on my son, for he is an epileptic and suffers badly. For he often falls into the fire and often into the water. And I brought him to your taught ones, but they were unable to heal him. And Yeshua answering said, O generation, unbelieving and perverted, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I put up with you? Bring him here to me.